The students of Sunspire Academy stood on the edge of a momentous discovery, though none could have predicted how close they were to unraveling the greatest mystery of their lives. High above the bustling streets of Solaris, the floating city, the Academy's towering spires seemed to pierce the sky itself, a symbol of hope, power, and unmatched knowledge. This prestigious institution, known across the galaxy for nurturing the most talented minds, was preparing for its final trials, the ultimate test for the cadets before they graduated. The trials were designed to test not just their skills, but their ability to confront the unknown. Yet, something far more dangerous than any trial was stirring beneath the Academy's sleek, glowing surfaces. Whispers had begun to surface, carried on the winds of rumors and unsettling occurrences. The old walls of Sunspire seemed to groan with ancient secrets, and dark energy, long forgotten, pulsed deep beneath its foundation. Leah Tyrannus, a cadet whose potential had always been just out of reach, felt it first. Her gut told her that something wasn't right. Something was coming. She had always been quiet, kept to herself, but there was something about this year that had changed. The dreams, the strange feelings of being watched. She couldn't ignore them any longer. One night, as she sat alone in the Academy's library, the hum of the city far below her, a message appeared on her terminal. A simple text, but one that made her blood run cold. The heart stirs. It calls to you. Prepare yourself. The message was unsigned, but the warning was clear. Catastrophe was on the horizon. Unsettled, Leah sought out Rylan Dragon, her closest friend. Unlike Leah, Rylan was outgoing and fearless, known for his curiosity and his ability to dive headfirst into trouble. It was Rylan who pushed her to trust her instincts, to dig deeper. Together, they started to investigate, tracing the strange patterns of energy that had started to appear within the Academy's architecture. Deep within the spire, hidden in the forgotten halls, they discovered an unusual anomaly, an ancient energy source that had been dormant for centuries. Its presence, undetected by the Academy's most advanced systems, hinted at something far beyond their understanding. But their search for answers was abruptly interrupted when they were called to participate in a routine training simulation. The simulations were designed to test everything the cadets had learned: survival tactics, strategic thinking, and teamwork. However, something was off. The usual environment, the virtual landscapes, began to warp unnaturally. The sky turned blood red, and the ground beneath them trembled. The simulation no longer felt like a training exercise. It felt real. As they struggled to navigate the increasingly hostile environment, Leah and Rylan realized that the simulation had been sabotaged. Someone, or something, had taken control. The stakes were no longer about passing a test. They were about survival. As the storm of chaos raged around them, Leah's thoughts raced. Could this be the event the mysterious message had warned her about? The feeling of danger was unmistakable. The Academy, for all its grandeur and safety, was now a vulnerable target, and whatever had been unleashed from beneath its spire was not something they could easily control. As Leah and Rylan fought to escape the simulation, a terrifying realization struck. This was only the beginning. The storm was only starting, and it would test not only their strength, but their loyalty, their courage, and their very lives. Something ancient and powerful was awakening, and the peaceful world of Sunspire Academy was about to be shattered. Only those brave enough to face the truth and confront the darkness lurking beneath their feet would have any chance of survival. Leah and Rylan's investigation into the strange happenings at Sunspire Academy had taken them deep into the Academy's oldest and most secretive corners, places that most cadets could only dream of seeing. These hidden sections were buried beneath layers of time and neglect, forgotten by all but a few. The walls were ancient, their surfaces covered in layers of dust and vines, the echoes of long-forgotten whispers lingering in the stale air as they made their way through the winding corridors. The flickering lights barely illuminated their path, casting long shadows across stone floors that hadn't been touched in centuries. Every step seemed to lead them deeper into a mystery no one had dared to unravel. It was here, in this forgotten part of the academy, that they discovered the first real clue to what lay beneath Sunspire's shining surface. They stumbled upon an old archive, buried behind a false wall in a library that hadn't seen a visitor in decades. The air was thick with the musty scent of old books, and the shelves groaned under the weight of knowledge long out of reach. Among the brittle papers and yellowed records, they found references to something called the Heart of the Spire. According to the records, this was an ancient, mysterious energy source that the Academy's founders had sealed away centuries ago, hidden deep within the heart of the Spire itself. The heart, as the founders had written, was the source of the Academy's power, the energy that had kept Solaris floating in the sky, safe from the dangers of the galaxy. But there was more. The heart had been designed not just as a power source, but as a weapon, capable of bringing either salvation or destruction, depending on who controlled it. The Academy's founders had hidden it away, knowing that if it were ever awakened, the consequences could be catastrophic. With no time to lose, Leah and Rylan began to decipher the clues that pointed them toward the heart's location. Each document, each ancient blueprint, seemed to bring them closer to the truth, but it also raised more questions. The heart of the Spire was awakening, that much was clear. And as they pieced together the fragments of the Academy's lost history, they realized that its power could either secure the future of Solaris or destroy it entirely. But the path to the heart was far from easy. The Academy wasn't just a school, it was a labyrinth, filled with hidden passageways, forgotten chambers, and complex systems of security designed to keep prying eyes away. The deeper they went, the more dangerous the path became. Finally, after days of searching, they reached a massive chamber beneath the spire. The room was filled with old technology, machines that hummed with energy, some still active, some long dormant. In the center of the room stood a massive, intricate device, the likes of which they had never seen before. It was the heart itself, encased in a protective barrier, its energy radiating out in pulses that made the air vibrate with power. But before they could approach it, a sound broke the silence, a deep, mechanical hum. Shadows moved in the corners of the room, and the temperature dropped. From the darkness they emerged, the Sentinels. These ancient guardians had been created centuries ago to protect the secrets of the Spire, and now they had been reactivated to stop anyone from reaching the heart. The Sentinels were relentless, their movements swift and precise. They were no longer just machines. They were living embodiments of the Academy's ancient will, designed to eliminate any threat. Leah and Rylan fought desperately to evade them, but there were too many. With every step, they felt the weight of the ancient technology pressing in on them, as if the very walls were alive and watching. It was then that Leah felt something stir inside her. The energy of the Spire, the energy they had been investigating, for days, began to respond to her, and in that moment, something inside her awakened. She could feel the raw power coursing through her veins, and with it, a strange, unfamiliar strength. Leah's newfound abilities allowed her to deflect the Sentinel's attacks, her mind now connected to the energy of the Spire itself. She was no longer just a cadet. She was becoming something more, something powerful. But with this power came a heavy burden. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting against an ancient force that had been waiting centuries for this very moment. As they barely escaped the chamber, with the heart of the Spire still out of reach, Leah realized the truth. Someone, or something, was trying to awaken it, and they would stop at nothing to see it released. The stakes had risen. The danger was far greater than either of them had imagined, and now the fate of Solaris, and perhaps the galaxy, rested on their ability to prevent the heart from awakening completely. Leah and Rylan had come so far in their quest to uncover the truth about the heart of the Spire, but nothing could have prepared them for what awaited them within the heart of Sunspire Academy. After days of digging through hidden chambers and deciphering ancient records, they had learned more about the heart's true nature. It was far more than just a powerful energy source. It was an entity, a force that could shape the future of the entire galaxy. But as they neared the end of their search, the answers they had uncovered drew the attention of someone far more dangerous than they had anticipated. The confrontation came swiftly. Master Kovan, the Academy's revered headmaster, called them into his private office, a grand chamber that overlooked the floating city of Solaris. His calm, almost detached demeanor masked the urgency in his eyes. Kovan had known about the heart's awakening for years, far longer than Leah and Rylan could have ever guessed. His voice remained steady, but there was a weight to his words that sent a chill down their spines. The headmaster revealed that he had been trying to control the heart's immense power in order to protect Solaris. The galaxy was filled with enemies, factions, intergalactic warlords, and dangerous forces that wanted to see Solaris fall. He had believed that if he could harness the heart's energy, he could safeguard the city and its people. But his actions had come with unforeseen consequences. The protective fields that kept Solaris floating and safe were weakening. The heart was awakening far too quickly, and Kovan was losing control. It was at that moment that Leah's stomach sank. She had never trusted the headmaster's motives, but now his words seemed like a final, desperate plea. "We cannot allow the heart to fall into the wrong hands," Kovan declared, his gaze hardening, "and I will do whatever it takes to ensure its power remains under control." He asked Leah and Rylan to join him, to become a part of his plan, to help him harness the heart's energy. But Leah's gut told her that his plan was as dangerous as it was reckless. She refused, determined not to let the heart be manipulated, for selfish gain. She knew that if the heart were controlled, it would be the end of everything they had fought for. But before she could voice her objections, a shocking revelation shattered the trust she had built with Rylan. The truth came, crashing down like a lightning strike. Rylan, the very person she had trusted with her life, had been working with Master Kovan all along. The shock hit Leah like a physical blow. Rylan had been secretly working for Kovan from the start, his loyalties tied to the headmaster's vision. As a child of a powerful intergalactic family, Rylan had been promised a place at the center of the galaxy's political power. The headmaster had used Rylan's ambition to secure his own plan, offering him a future among the galaxy's elite in exchange for his silence and loyalty. Rylan's face was torn between guilt and defiance. He had known how much this betrayal would hurt Leah, but he had been caught between his loyalty to Kovan and the ambition that had always driven him. The promise of power, of a place among the stars, had clouded his judgment. His dream of greatness had consumed him, leaving Leah in the dust. But even as the truth came to light, Leah could see the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between his ambition and the bond they shared. He had been playing both sides, torn between two worlds. The air was thick with tension. Leah's heart shattered as she realized that the person she had trusted most was now her enemy. In a single moment, everything had changed. With the truth laid bare, Leah had no choice but to flee. She could no longer stay in the academy, knowing that the very people she once considered allies were now part of a dangerous game. As she ran, her mind raced with questions. What would Rylan do now? Would he continue down the path of ambition, or would he find a way to redeem himself? And what about Kovan? Was his plan truly to protect Solaris, or was he driven by something darker? Determined to stop the heart from falling into the wrong hands, Leah plunged deeper into the mysteries of the Spire. But as she uncovered more, she realized that Rylan's decision was part of something much larger, something far more dangerous than she could have imagined. The consequences of their choices were not just about the fate of Solaris. This was a battle for the very survival of the galaxy itself, and the stakes were higher than ever before. The truth was out, but the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty. Would Leah be able to stop the heart from being controlled? And could she trust anyone, least of all Rylan, ever again? Leah ran, the weight of betrayal and the fate of Solaris pressing down on her shoulders. She was no longer a cadet of Sunspire Academy. She was a fugitive, hunted by those who once called her friend. With Rylan's treachery still fresh in her mind and Master Coven's dangerous plans looming on the horizon, Leah's only goal was to stop the heart of the Spire from being controlled. She had learned too much to ignore the truth. It wasn't just a source of power. It was a sentient entity, a living force with desires of its own, something the Academy's founders had never fully understood. The heart was not just a tool. It was alive, a being of unimaginable power that had been sealed away for centuries. Now, it was stirring, awakening in response to her touch. Leah knew where she had to go. The heart of the Spire, deep beneath the Academy. But the deeper she went, the more she felt the weight of the heart's presence. It thrummed with energy, its vibrations reaching out to her, calling to her like a whisper in the dark. As she approached the massive ancient chamber where the heart was contained, she felt a surge of energy unlike anything she had ever experienced. It wasn't just power, it was consciousness, ancient and immense. The heart knew she was coming. It had been waiting for her. When Leah finally stood before the heart, she understood the full scope of its power. It was a being of pure energy, capable of manipulating the very fabric of space and time itself. The stories she had read, the warnings she had heard, were all true. The heart could destroy entire worlds with a single thought or create new ones from the void. It was a force beyond comprehension, one that had been sealed away for good reason. But the heart needed something to act as its conduit, a human vessel to channel its immense power. The Academy's founders had never fully realized this, and now, Leah understood. The heart had been waiting for the right person to come along. With a sudden, desperate realization, Leah made a choice. She would offer herself as the vessel. Her connection to the Academy's energy, the strange link she had felt from the very beginning, might allow her to control the heart's power. But as she stepped closer, the moment she made contact with the heart, she could feel its power surge through her. The energy burned like fire, scorching her body and mind, and she realized with horror that it was too much. The heart wasn't just offering her its power. It was trying to take her over. Her mind began to unravel, her thoughts blurring as the heart's will pressed in on her. She felt herself losing control, her body becoming a puppet to the entity's will. Panic set in as she struggled to keep her thoughts intact. The heart's power was immense, but it was not something she could control alone. She had underestimated it. It was too much to bear, and her body was beginning to break under the strain. The only way to stop it, to sever her connection to the gas Spire's core, would mean sacrificing herself. She could feel the heart trying to consume her, its power pulling her into its depths. If she didn't sever the connection now, she would be lost forever. The decision was clear, but it was one that would cost her everything. Far above, Rylan was torn between the guilt that gnawed at his soul and the duty he had sworn to master. Coven. He had seen the truth in Leah's eyes when she had confronted him, the truth about the heart, about the danger they were facing. It wasn't just Solaris at risk, it was the entire galaxy. As Rylan watched from a distance, the weight of his betrayal began to crush him. The plan he had once thought was the key to his future now seemed like the greatest mistake of his life. He had chosen power over loyalty, ambition over friendship, and now it was time to make things right. He couldn't let Leah sacrifice herself. He couldn't let Master Coven have control of the heart. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and the consequences of his choices had led them to this moment. Determined to make amends, Rylan knew what he had to do. The time for hesitation was over. He had to stop Master Coven and save Leah from the Heart's grasp before it was too late. The fight wasn't just for Solaris, it was for everything they had ever known. But as he made his way toward the Spire, he knew that whatever happened next would change everything forever. The final battle had begun, and the very ground of Sunspire Academy trembled under the force of Rylan's confrontation with Master Coven. The Academy, once a symbol of knowledge and power, now became the stage for a clash that would determine not only the fate of Solaris, but the future of the entire galaxy. The ancient walls shook as Coven and Rylan exchanged blows, their powers clashing with a force that seemed to tear the very fabric of the air around them. The once revered headmaster, whose calm facade had hidden his desperation, now fought with all the fury of a man who feared losing everything. His plan to control the heart of the Spire had been driven by fear, a fear of the galactic powers that threatened Solaris, the floating city that had been the jewel of the stars. But as the battle raged on, it became clear that Coven's desire for control had made him blind to the true nature of the heart. It was not a weapon to be controlled. It was a force that could either save or destroy civilizations. And now, in his attempt to wield it, Coven had brought them all to the brink of disaster. Meanwhile, deep within the Spire, Leah's struggle was just as intense. Fully bonded with the heart, she felt its power surge through her, a constant presence that both terrified and empowered her. The heart was no longer just an energy source. It had become a part of her, its ancient sentience filling her mind with visions of a galaxy on the edge of destruction and rebirth. It spoke to her, not in words, but in emotions, in flashes of thought, in the weight of its will pressing down on her heart. The decision was hers to make, to destroy the heart and save Solaris from its destructive power, or to embrace its potential, to wield its might and lead the galaxy into a new era. But the heart had its own plans, its own desires, and as much as it had connected with her, it was now forcing her into a choice that would change everything. Leah felt her mind being pulled in different directions. She could feel the heart's will battling against her own, pushing her toward a future she wasn't sure she could control. It wanted peace. It wanted power. But it also wanted something darker. The only way to stop it from tearing apart everything, she knew, was to sever her bond with it, to make the ultimate sacrifice. She understood now what the founders had feared, that the heart was not simply an energy source, but a living entity that could change the galaxy forever, for better or worse. The power it offered was limitless, but at what cost? And if she chose to embrace it, would she become the very thing she had once feared? But in the midst of this internal struggle, Leah heard a voice, Rylan's voice, calling to her from across the Spire. He had come. After everything that had happened, after the lies and betrayal, Rylan had come to stop the madness. His guilt, his need to right the wrongs he had committed, had finally brought him to her side. He had realized the truth about the heart and the destruction it could bring if left unchecked. Together, they had to find a way to sever the connection between the heart and the Spire's core before everything fell apart. In the final moments, Leah and Rylan joined forces. Their combined strength, born of both trust and sacrifice, allowed them to channel their will and cut off the heart's power. It was no easy feat. The Spire itself seemed to resist them, the very walls of the Academy trembling as they fought to undo the damage that had already been done. The heart screamed in protest, its energy pulsing violently as it tried to break, free from its bonds. But together, Leah and Rylan pushed through, their bond stronger than the heart's pull. The moment they severed the connection, a deafening silence followed. The energy that had threatened to tear Solaris apart faded, and the heart's influence was contained. In the aftermath, Solaris was saved, but at great cost. The students of Sunspire Academy, who had once looked to the future with hope and ambition, now faced a new reality. They had seen firsthand the dangers of unchecked power, and the burden of responsibility weighed heavily on them. But even in this uncertain world, there was hope. The galaxy was not lost. The heart of the Spire had been contained, but its power still lingered, a reminder of the delicate balance that all those who sought to lead must one day face. As the trials of Sunspire Academy continued, the students knew that the future of the galaxy would rest in their hands. And with that knowledge came the understanding that to truly lead, they would need to challenge fate itself, to question the very forces that sought to shape the universe, and, in the end, decide whether to embrace the unknown or let it slip away.